Another day, another fake hate crime drummed up by the left. Here's how the story originally went. A biracial woman in Madison, Wisconsin, told police officers back in June that she was attacked by 4 racist white men who looked like frat boys. She claimed the 4 men pulled up alongside her vehicle at a stoplight, called her a racial epithet, sprayed her with lighter fluid, and through her open window, and then lit the teenager on fire. But it looks like that was all a lie. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Wisconsin saying that after reviewing all the available evidence, authorities could not establish that the attack, as alleged by the complainant, had actually occurred. This is eerily similar to the Jussie Smollett fake hate crime, where he claimed that noose-wielding Trump supporters attacked him in Chicago, of all places. So what does the rise of fake hate crimes say about the modern left? With me now to discuss from the Daily Wire and host of the Ian Haworth Show, Ian, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So are you surprised about this hoax, or were you skeptical about her claims from the beginning?
I think it's difficult, right? Because we want to always come from a position of objectivity where we take all accusations seriously. I think that's, for example, the Me Too movement's original goal was to make sure that we take accusations of sexual assault seriously. And I think the same should be said of racially based attacks. But I think too often now we've come to the situation where accusations have turned out to be false and there's really no outcome. Like, you're free to make false accusations and there's no recourse. So unfortunately, I'm seeing a pattern where people are getting into the habit of simply not believing accusations, which of course is worse when people actually come out with real accusations and aren't taken seriously.
And when it comes to this, we see the media and the police department doesn't look like they're going to be holding this woman accountable. Police surveillance shows that they did not even see her car in the city at the time she alleged this happened. They have surveillance of her driving and nothing happening. She claims that a lighter was thrown into her car. However, some were wondering how a lighter stayed lit being thrown through a window, since you have to hold it down in a very specific manner. So we see a lot of problems with her claims nonetheless. However, the media's dropped this like a hot potato. They haven't touched it since the original claims were made back in June. We know we're not going to get any retractions from them anytime soon. However, it looks like the police department, they didn't exactly call it a hoax, but they said that there was absolutely no evidence that it happened. I don't see any evidence on that front that we're going to see charges brought of any false police reports being filed. What does it say to you that it seems like these situations, as you were pointing out, never the person pushing these stories never seems to be held accountable for their actions?
Well, it's just going to encourage people to make false claims with the hope that they'll either get attention or that they could see someone falsely charged. I mean, going back to the Jussie Smollett case, or as Dave Chappelle said, Jussie Smollett, which I think seems far more appropriate. No charges were filed, but let's say that 2 MAGA-wearing people who happened to be walking around Chicago in the middle of the night on a sub-zero evening just happened to be found walking around. They were innocent, but were arrested and charged. Would Jussie Smollett have come out and said, actually, I was making the whole thing up? In all likelihood, he wouldn't have done. And in this case, it's exactly the same thing. I don't think Bernstein would have said that, oh, I was actually making it up. Like, these are real people's lives at stake. It's all very well making a false accusation. No one's arrested. Nothing comes of it. But what if real people are arrested and charged? Like, these are people's lives. I think it's despicable on a moral level that people are free to make these false accusations and nothing happened. There has to be some recourse. Otherwise, why would they stop?
And this has dangerous side effects because, as we saw, I believe it was about a year or 2 ago, this conversation is reminding me when Shaun King, the race hoaxer himself, Shaun King had alleged, because there was a woman, I believe a friend, and they had an 8-year-old girl in the back seat. They were driving, and some unidentified men shot into their vehicle. The women and Shaun King claimed that it was a white man who had done it. Shaun King even accused a very specific man who was in jail at the time, accused him of being a white supremacist, of killing this poor innocent 8-year-old child. The man ended up committing suicide, and yet Shaun King has never been held to account for that his actions in falsely accusing someone directly led to the death of this man. However, this whole thing with in Madison in Wisconsin with Bernstein, it's another fake hate crime hoax. It almost seems like the demand for racists in America far out supersedes the supply that we have. What does that tell you about our culture right now?
I think it's that our culture, at least the media, are looking for this to push their narrative. And we see proof of this in the way they drop cases. So, for example, when they come across a case where there is some accusation or there is a possible racial element, they are quick to immediately take it up. You'll see it front page of every single newspaper. You'll see it strewn over every single segment on shows like CNN. But then the moment evidence comes out where it's clear it doesn't fit, suddenly it's on to the next thing. What the media have to be held accountable for is the fact that they have severe authority when it comes to issues of truth and falsehood. And when they take issues that haven't been proven, present them as fact, and then drop them immediately, they're taking no responsibility for the damage they're doing, because people have very, very short attention spans. They forget the fact that evidence is important. So people go with what they want the narrative to be. So in answer to your question, this is a direct symptom of a society that wants racism to be more of a problem than it actually is. Of course, racism exists, but the fact that we can all name more racial hoaxes than we can actual racially motivated attacks says something about how America truly isn't as racist as people would like to think it is, and says a lot about how the media is desperate to keep that narrative going.
That's a great point. We're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ian.